Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast, where we discuss all things ranging from love, relationships, authenticity, fulfillment, to lessons from plant medicine journeys, inner healing, and living your truth. I'm not your teacher, I'm only your fellow student. Occasionally, you also get to hear some of my own healing process and journey back to love. The point of the program? That you take away at least one actionable piece of knowledge that supports you in expanding whatever aspect of your life your heart most desires. My name is Cesar Rodriguez. I will be your host, and I am honored to have you here. Happy listening.
We're live.
All right. We got some great jams going on right here. Okay. Well, welcome to episode 2 of the Love is Our Nature podcast. This episode is titled Love and Politics. I'm excited about it, and I have 2 amazing, wonderful guests. As you know, my co-host Zaina Digaya is back. She is with us again. Thank you for being here, Zaina. And we have a wonderful guest. Sorry, Z, go ahead.
I said I'm stoked about today.
Yes, thanks for being here. And we have Nathan Benamos. He is the founder of the Hope Network that we're going to get to hear all about today. And he's just out in the world having people's dreams come true and being a beacon of peace and love for humanity. And it's just a joy and a gift to have you with us. Nathan, thank you.
Well, thank you for the powerful introduction. I likewise see what the impact you and Zaina are creating, and I love the intention of this podcast and what we're going to open up today to really create some opening for real healing and love and transformation in the political dialogue. And not just in the political dialogue, but that's where people are most disconnected right now.
Yes. It's going to be a very exciting conversation. We have an hour, and I'm broadcasting from Costa Rica, specifically the little town of Tamarindo in the Guanacaste Peninsula. So pardon my lighting. This is as good as it's going to get for now. I have a ring light on the way. That's going to arrive at some point, as long as I don't know how long it takes to ship things through the Guanacaste Peninsula, but it'll be here sooner or later. So I want to start by sharing another story. Last episode, we spoke a lot about my first experience with psychedelics, and specifically with ayahuasca and a shamanic plant medicine ceremony. And I want to tell you all about this other ceremony I had. There was this one experience I had. It was a different time. And for some reason, I was starting to experience a lot of the pain and suffering that was going on in other places in the world. Inside that meditative experience, in whatever dimension I was in, it's like I could experience it. And at one point, I saw myself being a starving child in a third world country. At another moment, I was a woman in labor, giving birth painfully. And other moments, I was like both of those things at once. And I could go on, but it was like I was getting present to all this suffering that's going on in the world, and I would feel it like right in that moment. It was becoming very heavy. I was seeing like all this suffering, the scope would broaden, and before you knew it, I was present to like famine, genocide, and the whole thing was just like weighing on me. I remember that I was having a hard time even taking a breath because the weight was so heavy right there where I was in my ceremony. I couldn't even breathe at times, and I would have to do a lot of effort to actually breathe in. And as I was moving around, for some reason, I started walking around, or at least trying to. And each step was like so much work. I actually collapsed twice. And then there was a third time, and that was like the final time I collapsed. And the facilitator was like worried about me. um, it it was one of the more rough experiences I had. But when I was laying there on the ground, I start to see. First, I start to hear like this constant buzz. It was almost like the Om sound, right? Like this constant like that. And then there was like a rhythm, like a thump, 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 thump on top of the Om. So it's both of those sounds at once. And then visually, at least in my mind's eye or whatever experience I was having, I start to see this mesh of colors, like those psychedelic backgrounds that you see, right? Like from the 60s, or like this mesh of colors. And it was all very fluid. It starts to sway, and it looked beautiful. It was like this whole mix of colors. And it was like swaying perfectly to the beat. Thump, thump, thump. And it was like swaying slowly. And then the constant and then I see this female entity, like she opens her eyes, and it was like as if she was body painted in all those colors, because she was there the whole time. Except now I could see there's a female entity there. And I say entity because I don't know if she was human. And like in my vision, right, she didn't quite look like a human. And here's what she said to me. And what's really interesting about it is that I got the sense that if she were doing what she was doing, if she were to stop swaying, like this whole reality, this 3D material world that we're in, like our whole reality would collapse. It was like she was a column holding up this dimension. It was really cool. And I could see like what she was doing was really important, and she had to keep doing her swaying dance. And humming along to it. She was like humming along to it as well. But in between her hum, she was able to let out a few words towards me, almost in that same rhythm of that hum. And one of the things that she said to me was, I was indulging and avoiding. Like that's literally all she said. She said, you're indulging and avoiding. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking to all that pressure I just finished experiencing, like from all the suffering that's going on in the world. And one of the things she said to me was, the next thing she said was, solve it in yourself. Like that's what she said through her buzz, right? She was like, solve it in yourself. And I was like, wait a second. So are you telling me like all the famine, the war, the genocide, that if I solve something over here, like in me, then it's gonna make a difference over there, or it's gonna sort it out here in our world? And yeah, that was indeed what she was saying. So it was a very interesting experience. And till this day, this was over 2 years ago, and to this day, I'm still continuing to unpack that experience and discover what she was telling me. So I share that to open up our conversation about like what, right now there's all kinds of things going on in the political arena, societal arena, right? We had Capitol riots the other day, January 6th. It was one of the very few times that I tuned in live to see what was going on. And before you know it, things get all chaotic, right? And it didn't start there, of course. Most of 2020, we had this very divided environment, right? It was like one thing after the other, divided. Masks, wear a mask, screw masks. Virus is real, it's not real. Lockdowns, stay in. stay out, right? And then elections got closer, right? And like conservative, liberal, left, right, vaccines now, you're an anti-vaxxer, right? And again, like more, it seems like with everything that keeps entering our arena, like very quickly, it becomes a polarized conversation. So yes, that's what I wanted to share with you all, that interesting experience. That I might allude back to it later. There's so much I can talk about that what that woman or that female entity showed me. So the question we're going to entertain, well, we're going to entertain all kinds of questions. I don't, as usual, I don't have a specific agenda for this conversation. The questions that come to mind that I want both of you to answer, and we'll just dance with it, is number one, given that, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much everybody I've spoken with just wants peace in the world. It seems like we all want just people to have a life that works, like have a shot at peace, have a shot at living a full life, right? And then there's all these topics that we're dealing with that seem to get like in the way with all the polarized conversation, right? So I guess the first question is, what's the best way to deal with this environment? How do we create the world we want to create? And then second, why is it so difficult to make space for other people's opinions and opposing views, right? Like why is it that it becomes such a polarized thing, right? So there you go. Let's have us a talk. And what do you guys think?
Well, obviously the form of communication is not working, because if it was working, our results would be different. So the one thing is the way we're engaging with each other. It's textual, based on Facebook threads. It's not getting in people's worlds. It's about dominating and forcing a perspective. It's about a commitment to being right. And underneath that, people are scared. There's an underlying occurring that, wow, if I don't force this point of view, it's going to be the end of the world. This is like and it's on both sides. And a lot of people, they even get polarized about the both sides conversation. It's like, there's no way it can be on both sides. Well, I don't know if it's on both sides, but I know that as an individual in a sea of 7 billion people, I don't really have much say in a lot of these political things. So what am I going to do? Go out there and break a relationship and cause a fracture in our ability to connect because I'm trying to be right about something that, technically speaking, it's not really making a difference to have to force the perspective? Well, I say let's come together, because the real solution to all this is being united. Because that's the thing, like if you believe in some sort of crazy conspiracy theory or whatever, that's not going to make the difference. What's going to make the difference is being united, because nothing is more powerful than a body of people on the planet that unit across all boundaries agree on the intention that we are interconnected, that we share this earth together, and what I do has an impact on you, which is a lot different. It's a lot different than saying that someone doesn't matter in a political sense, because it's such a big conversation, that literally the little things we do in our day-to-day life and these conversations, the way we love our loved ones, our family, the way that we put a smile on people's face at the grocery store, like all the little things that we do on a day-to-day basis are the things that are making the difference. And it's when we break boundaries with people, and when we destroy relationships and we put things in the way between us and people, we put power, we put circumstance, we put money. We're no better than any of the people we're judging when we start to do that. We are doing the same exact thing. We are being the divisive that we're judging the other side to be, and that doesn't work. And it's really all about just being the change we want to see in the world, and just being it generously, even if the other side doesn't give it. Because there's no sides at the end of the day. It's not about let me protect myself, let me fight a war. It's let me love this person until they get that this isn't a war. This is We're in this together. But they're not going to get it intellectually. You're not going to get someone to get it by telling them. You're going to get someone to get it by showing them.
By showing them. So how do you show them, Nathan? Give
Well,
us the answer.
That was just a drop the mic moment. And then, thank you for sharing all that, because really, we could just stop the show now. That's the answer.
Yeah, that's it, y'all.
And
there you go.
But that was it. That was really, really beautiful. And then how do we do that? How do we be that? How do we, like you said, how do we express that love? And I know you have, you have a partner. You and your partners have opposing views, or what people call opposing, the kind of opposing views that right now are like, breaking up all kinds of relationships and creating all kind of conflict and taking affinity out and love out of relationships.
Well, in the political sense, my business partner and I, Eli, we have opposite views in the political sense, but in the intentional human sense, we both want to see a world that works. And actually, we align on most stuff. Like, I agree with him on the unworkability that he sees liberal policies being able to meet the needs on. He agrees with me on a lot of the conservative things I stand on. And actually, we agree on most of the stuff. It's where our bigger concern is. I just have a bigger concern about the physical solvency, economic sustainability of this country. He has a bigger concern about the disenfranchisement, about social stuff, but it doesn't mean I don't align with him over there. It doesn't mean I don't care about climate change. And it doesn't mean he doesn't care about the economic sustainability of our policies. We agree. We just have an alignment to what our it's all a lesser of two evils thing. The whole political thing is like making people believe that there's a big boogeyman over there. And if I don't align with this evil empire over here, it's all going to fall apart. The thing is somewhere along the way, human beings believed they were powerless. Somewhere along the way, we decided that we had no power, no say in the matter, and that we would have to be manipulated into this course of action, that it was this crappy choice, or I'm sorry about the French guys, or this one over here. So, but we made that up. The reality is, Eli says it all the time. He's not here, so I'll speak on his behalf. Two choices and an ultimatum. We are continually put in a highly manipulative situation where it's A or B. Well, the reality is choice would allow us to really choose, not to have to choose between one thing we don't like and another thing we don't like. And it's obvious, and I don't want to get political, like don't like hear me wrong about this, but it's obvious that both sides are inherently corrupt. And I get disgusted with what I see in both directions, but I understand they're human, and I understand I'm human, and I understand people out there who are arguing are human. And what we all need right now is compassion. And compassion is an acceptance of each other for where we are, and an understanding of the fear that's plaguing each and every one of us. And I understand the fear that is plaguing my liberal friends. And I understand the fear that is plaguing my conservative friends. And inherently, in a point of view sense, they're different fears. But in a underlying sense that it's fear, it's really all in the domain of fear. In that way, it's the same. Does that land?
Yeah.
It's the same. You're saying it's the same because what?
Because it's fear. Just fear is fear. And it's not anything else. It's just fear.
Yeah. All right. So then what if I say, like, all right, Nathan, well, that all sounds really good. But it's easier said than done, right? Like, what if, those people out there have such a radical view that I feel like if we don't do anything, like, because they're so passionate about their view, I'm in danger.
Well, that is the point of view. Yeah. So the thing is to get that there's no danger. And I mean getting it to the death. And I hate to say it, but like all right, I'm going to bring some Christian in here, but like, sure. I'm not pushing Jesus on anyone. I want to be clear. But Jesus went to the cross and he was killed loving people, saying, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. The unconditional compassion and love. I don't care. That's what Gandhi did. That's who Mother Teresa was. That's who I mean, MLK had that same heart, and tomorrow's MLK Day. So, like, let's just talk about it. There's no danger out there. Listen, there's no danger out there. And yeah, someone might have it out with your body. Someone might have it out with your emotions. And you know what? There's no danger out there, because if we're really going to transform this thing, we just have to like step into a radical compassion and to love people for their fear. And I'm not saying loving the fear. I'm saying loving the person to such an extent that eventually they see that there's no value in holding on to that fear, and that the person that they think they're scared of really is there to love them to completion, to just total freedom.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's just awesome, Nathan. And yeah, I love the idea that, you know, there is no danger. Like, at the end of the day, the quote unquote worst thing that could happen is we die.
I mean, listen,
Right?
I don't want to make it not bad. I mean,
Right.
it's the end of your life.
Yes. Yes.
It's not
And
good.
it's almost like we have a choice, right? Like, how do we want to die? That's where I feel that it takes a conversation a little bit deeper, which is kind of where I wanted to go as well. I think we have to get a little bit deeper into this, because it starts to become existential, like an existential threat, right? So therefore, we have to address our existence and the nature of our existence. And my some of my spiritual teachings, well, that I've received, and my spiritual journey, a lot of it has. By the way, all of this, when I speak of spiritual beliefs and all that, for me, everything's still up for grabs, right? I'm not at a place where I can tell you this is actually exactly how it is. This is exactly how the universe works. Let me tell you, right? Because I know the truth now, right? And you're silly if you don't. It really, it's still up for grabs. I speak from a belief that I'm holding on to today, and 6 months from now, you might see me with a completely different belief, you know? And I think that is the nature of growth, right? We're constantly trading certain ideas for others. Sometimes what seems like lesser ideas for greater. But who's to say any of them were lesser or greater? Anyway, in the spiritual, a lot of the spiritual teachings I've received, and I've talked to Zaina a lot about this, is, you know, at the end of the day, everything that we see out here in our reality, meaning in this three-dimensional world, right? Like, we got tables, houses, people walking around, right? Everything is a reflection, like an illusion almost. Not like it's not real, but a reflection of our consciousness, right? So that's where metaphysics comes in, right? Quantum physics has proven how there's nothing in reality that's not affected by the observer, right? So a person observing a reality observes one thing, and then when another observer observes that reality is affected by that observer, right? And it seems like it's so malleable, but without getting too crazy into quantum physics, but I'm by far an expert in quantum physics. Yeah, what would you say, Zane, about the idea that everything that's happening is a reflection of our consciousness?
Peter,
How
what
do
you
we
just
deal
said,
with
that last thing you just said it is exactly how it is right now. How you view it is how it is, and everybody is standing from their particular location and their particular view, saying, my view is the truth. And like, you know, like you said, Nathan, you know, it's like this need to be right about it, like to the point where it's survival. I've been there. It's just so frustrating.
it?
And my practice this year, like where I've been growing, is the uncollapsing of that is the getting that my view is my view, and that have my views actually empower me.
Yeah. You
And
know what? You want your views to leave you empowered. That's
yeah,
a huge point.
it's something to explore, and then to explore truth. I've been exploring truth. Perhaps, when you look at the mug and I can see the handle, but you can't, and we're fighting about there's a handle and there's no handle,
Mm.
I constantly remind myself of that perhaps I can't see the whole picture. Just perhaps,
Yeah.
like you say, Caesar, maybe I don't see the whole picture. And then the pursuit of truth becomes exciting again, rather than this something to fight for. And
So,
and then when a belief is a belief, it I actually don't have to prove it to you because it's a belief. And I have a responsibility to show you evidence so you can be left with the same assertion I'm left with if I'm going to speak about it. If I'm going to, not necessarily, I can speak about it without being positional, right? And most people speak about things, in a way that's very positional. We could talk about that too. What's up with that? It's what you were asking, Caesar, why is it so tough for us to get along and not and talk about these things? So I think it's a practice. I think we're growing, and like what you said about consciousness being a reflection, like it is, and we're growing. And as we're growing in our compassion, growing in our ability to have compassion for ourselves, which is our mercy, we're stepping into a new era.
Yeah.
What it is, we're doing it.
Yeah. So I have a question about the. Sorry?
It's going to take a lot of love.
Yes. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we're here broadcasting. I have a question though. Yeah. So we talked about, and Nathan, you said you want your views to empower you, right? So, given this is a show that's being broadcasted, right? Like, what do you? If I'm an average Joe, like I'm working, I'm paying my bills, and trying to take care of my family, and I'm worried that there's some radical people out there, like that seem to threaten the reality and our existence, like, and my safety seems threatened. How am I supposed to have my view empower me?
I'm going to speak in some simple terms. First of all, you want your view to empower you personally. So you want to have peace, because from a state of peace, you're going to be more productive in whatever your day-to-day pursuit is, whether it's a job or whether you have a business. So you want to have peace. So first thing I think to get out of space is the fear. And I think in a very practical sense, the thing is we're causing reality. There is cause and effect relationships, and we are sowing seeds every single day into our future. And a lot of people do not understand that there is blowback to the point of views. You don't see the blowback right away. You're planting a seed in the ground, and if you continue to water that seed, eventually seeds of hate turn into extremism. Eventually, seeds of fear turn into protectionism. There are, and I think the most obvious example I can give, and the CIA widely accepts this theory of blowback foreign policy, is that bombing other countries in the Middle East is only creating more extremism. That if you take away a little kid's father or brother through an act of war, eventually that kid who doesn't have his parents will probably one day end up into an extremist-like cult. It's the same thing with the social justice when you send African American men to prison for marijuana violations, and you have these kids growing up without fathers. There's blowback to the way we're being, and the way we're being with each other right now. It starts to place a rift where I already see the seeds of the next crisis that we're putting into an existence because of the way we're working with each other. And I already see the sheer irresponsibility of the human psyche, that when that crisis comes, are we going to take responsibility for the dialogue that we planted today? Or are we going to point the finger and blame them for how they responded to us? Because we're all responding. It's the I'm creating you, creating me, creating you distinction that we learned at Landmark. It's we're all responding to each other. Are we going to take responsibility for what we're putting out into the field, or are we going to continually blame and put responsibility out there? And I'll tell you, the people who don't have responsibility are the people who end up poor financially. The people who don't take responsibility end up divorced. The people who don't take listen, no hate if your life ends up that way. But if you don't take responsibility, things are always going to keep happening to you. Listen, life has happened to me. I've made some mistakes, but the only way I know to transform my life is to take responsibility for it.
Mm.
Amen.
Yeah, man, so much that we could open up, and thank you for that, Nathan. Now, Zaina, some say that right now is actually like a rebirth of the world, rebirth of the earth. Some speak of a fifth dimension, right, that we are ascending into. And perhaps everything that's going on right now, in a way, is the best thing that could be happening right now, which could be a radical thing to say. And I can see how a lot of people would be like, what are you talking about? Like, it's 2020 was like the worst year ever. And it's still 2021. It's not looking any different. So how is what's going on right now the best thing that could be happening for Earth?
Well, Caesar, I mean, there's so many layers to what you said. If there is an ascension happening, like some people believe, if there is an ascension happening, whether it's the best thing ever or not is a total view. You know what I mean? And it could be that, you know, we cycle. This is the Kali Yuga is ending. This is you know, in the Hindu scriptures, literally we've ended what's called an epoch, une époque. This is the age of darkness. It's ending. And now we're in the information age. So there is, you know, some people like to celebrate ending. Some people get sad about it. But, you know, it's like, visualize a woman is giving birth naturally, and she's in a chair, her legs are out, and she like is in fierce pain, and there's blood everywhere. It's just really intense, you know, and somebody who has no idea what's happening is like, oh my God, call 911. This woman is going to there's blood. What's going on? Nobody's doing anything. Their heart rate is like this. Their face is super red. They're super tense and stressed out, and they're not happy. And they're scared, Nathan. They're scared. They're so afraid. And then somebody else is standing watching the same thing, and they're like, wow, that is the miracle of life. Look at that. Just birth. The grace of God, birth happening. It's so beautiful.
So do you think that's what's going on, Zaina? We are in the messy environment of a birth right now?
Yeah. We are right now in my opinion, we are in the birthing canal right now. It's painful and it's going to be a little bit more painful. We're in the canal right now. And look, what's been happening is like, you know, if you have a really, really, really dark closet and it's been dark for a long time and it's dirty, it's got cobwebs, dead rats, cockroaches, all kinds of caca, you can't see it because it's dark. And then the light comes on and 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 the light comes on. And whoa, there's a lot of caca in this dark pit. That's what's happening. There's so much light. I mean, that's my view. There's so much light. So yeah, it's messy, it's painful, it's yucky, it's ugly, and it's beautiful, and it's sacred, and it's it's like a sunrise. It's like,
yeah, you know, a lot of that does resonate with me. The you know, when we talk about healing, and I'm discovering this whole new layer of the world of healing, and that's for another episode. However, in I've spoken with different shamans, and they're healers, right? So oftentimes when people go to them because they're either sick or depressed, which in shamanism is also viewed as an illness. Sometimes we're sick emotionally, right? Um, when we are undergoing the healing process, and we often do some shadow work, right? And we visit those dark places in our psyche and our being, right? And things do get pretty messy. And I've had certain experiences myself in ceremony and outside of ceremony of visiting that darkness, and yeah, there's nothing pretty about it. So you use the analogy of the messy environment where a woman is in the middle of labor, and perhaps another analogy is also a person undergoing taking on the healing process, like in a medicine ceremony, right? Like there's throw up, right? There's
Yeah,
sickness.
we're getting
And,
well. Humanity's getting
yeah,
well right now.
yeah. And all the shaman is doing is holding space for that person to undergo the healing process, much like how my mother, when I would have a stomach virus, I really loved that she would put her hand on my forehead so I could rest my head there as I'm facing down, puking. Like that hand was just the nicest thing ever. Like I was so grateful for that hand. And I share that because at least where I've gone with this whole thing, the political environment and all that, everything that's going on in the world, the role I see that we can play is we can be that hand on the forehead and hold space for the sick patient that's undergoing the healing process, right? Who's amidst all that darkness and letting out all that, whether it's energetic or organic, all that hasn't been served them for the best good, right? So would you say that maybe that's something like what's going on right now, and we're seeing it? It's not a person; it's a woman in labor. It's that we're going through it as the unit of a world.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, we are
Okay.
transforming together.
All right. So then it is worth the question then, how do we be that hand on the forehead and the person that holds space for the
That's a
undergoing?
No,
Yeah.
it's a great
For,
question.
for,
That's what I was doing. Look, before 2020, all the light workers, healers, everybody was like, I'm not ready. I gotta go do more trainings. Now everybody's like everybody's got passion, Caesar. Everybody, like, who for you, it may be like, that patting. For me, it's holding somebody's hand. For somebody else, so there's so many ways we can serve right now, and so many ways we can um, hold space like a shaman holds while people are puking. And
yeah.
puking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways in which you're doing that, say what, Zaina?
So that's what I love about my shaman. I have such a special relationship with my Cambo woman, Natasha. Like
Uh-huh.
nobody's seen me puke and puke at the same time like that. And like it's so vulnerable, so beautiful. So that's
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful,
And-
Caesar. I never thought of it that way, but that is who we get to be.
Well, and what I love about the two of you is, in my view, you're both being that hand right now on the sick patient's forehead. Zaina, I want you to share about that. And you're holding these mindful dance, like dancing yoga events. So I want you to talk about that, and then I want to go to Nathan's version of the hand on the forehead, because we're going to spend some time about like his amazing project and what he's providing the world. But before we go there,
Sure.
tell us about the yoga dancing. What exactly is it? What else are you doing that I might not be aware of besides that? And what are people taking away from it? What is it providing?
Awesome. Everybody wants to feel like not only connected right now, but we all want to feel like settled and like in a knowing, like that, like take away the self-doubt. So the dancing and the chanting and the music is access for us to go deep within ourselves. Like Caesar, what I was telling you today, like, like we've got, so take the focus off of the ascension of humankind and put your attention on your ascension, your frequency, your elevation. So dancing. Now, the dance that I teach is something that I've created. It's really my practice. It's my prayer practice. So if you pray, if you, take intentional time to devote yourself to the source. Some people pray, some people go to the church, and some people sing. So that's one way I do it. But the yoga dance classes is that it's a devotional practice expressing your prayer and your intention through your dance. So if you ever done like an ecstatic dance kind of thing, it's kind of like that. It's a lot of fun. So
Expressing your prayer and your intentions through your dance.
yes,
Wow. Beautiful.
literally, like, if you've ever done kirtan is, it's singing, chanting. So we say, don't worry about how you sound when you do kirtan, because it's not about your voice. It's about it coming from your heart. It's a prayer. So it's the same thing with love dance. Like, don't worry about your dance moves. Like, the intention is that it's coming from your heart and it's your prayer. So we just dance our butts off for an hour, and it's a lot of fun. We've been doing it at the beach.
Yeah, the beach, that's beautiful.
And Caesar, just to answer your last question, what people take away from it is that connection. Connection, joy. Joy is a sustained frequency of love. So when you chant, when you dance in that way, you vibrate love, and then you stay at that vibration, and you're emanating joy.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Z. And what comes to mind also is perhaps a little bit speaking going back to physics again. We have seen things like the law of attraction, and metaphysics has taught us all kinds of things about how like we live in an energetic world, like everything is energy. And sure enough, right, science has shown us that everything is electrons and protons and neutrons, and these electrons aren't staying still, right? They're vibrating at extremely fast speeds, and everything is energy, right? So I think it was Neil Donald Walsh, author of Conversations with God, that had me see this thing about prayer, right? Where he was like, you all got prayer wrong. When you pray to God and you say, God, I want to make more money. God, I want to be healthy, right? Well, it's the universe doesn't speak the same language as we do, like English words, right? In fact, the universe has been around a lot longer than the English language, right? Or than perhaps linguistic language, period, right? So that's where I started seeing, like, yeah, our prayer is more about the energy we're projecting through our feeling, more so than the words we're saying. And Neil Donald Walsh said, like, what you're projecting with those wants is the want. You're telling the universe the want, so the energy is getting broadcasted is the lack of that. Yeah. And guess what you're gonna get more of? Guess what the universe is gonna give you? Yeah, it's gonna give you what you're projecting, not what you're asking for, but what you're being. Right. So that's when I started discovering this concept that I refer to as being energy. Right. Not to be energy, but our being, like who I'm being now, it's projecting energy. If I'm angry, I'm projecting anger. If I'm kind, I'm projecting kindness, right? So it's more about how I'm being. And I could see, had you asked me 3 years ago, like, do I think people dancing on is moving forward anything in our political arena, I would have said you're crazy, right? But now, through like having, do see how perhaps that might even be the most important kind of work, and how you're definitely at that point being the head and holding space for the healing process, because having people get in that state of joy, of love, peace, and bringing on that physical energy to it, right? Like Tony Robbins says, like motion creates emotion, right? Like now you've got this group of people projecting the love, projecting the kindness, projecting the joy, which is what we want to create. So
It
I
is.
think it's wonderful, Zane. And it,
Thank you, Caesar.
yeah, go ahead.
You know, I just want to say one more thing, and then I want to
Yeah.
hear about hope too. But it's like we said before, it's really a
Yes.
dance. Like right now, I've never been so moved to do both. I love, like, I know I'm here to, for me, know God in all, like see God in all. If you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all, and be that in the world. And I bought my Doc Martens for a reason. They represent something for me. It's my boots on the ground. It's like taking the actions I know I need, like opening up orphanages. That's boots on the ground stuff that I know I'm going to accomplish. So there's a dance of both, and I love being in them. And 2021 has me like balancing both. So I invite everyone, and look, and if you're, whatever you're doing is amazing. There's no like one better than the other. Whatever you're called to do, do it.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Z. Thank you for doing the great work you're doing out there with people. And thank you for introducing me to Kirtan. Like, just such a gift. I've only been twice now, and I'm trying to find a Kirtan community down here in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. So I'll keep you posted.
You will.
About that. So Nathan,
Beautiful. Thank you, Zena.
tell us. Yes, for sure. Tell us all about your version of the hand on the patient's forehead, right? So you have the Hope Network. I happen to have a profile in the Hope Network. What is the Hope Network? What is it accomplishing, and why now?
Well, I answer your healing question first, and I'll talk about the Hope Network.
Yes.
What people need more than anything is to feel belonging. People get involved with addiction, and it doesn't have to be drugs. You could be binging Netflix addicted. I mean, we're all covering up our pain, and we do it in different compulsive ways. And what happens is we don't feel safe to belong. We have a shame, guilt, and what people need more than anything is they need to be accepted. And that's why making people wrong for their political views, which aren't really views, they're really just concerns masked as views. So what we're doing is we're invalidating people for their fear when we refuse to get them and try and force our views on them and dominate that. But people need a sense of compassion. And when they feel accepted, they find that they can just open up to love. And that does not mean anything but just listening. I mean, it's really, loving people has got to be one of the most oxymoronish things out there, because in a way it's hard, but in another way it's just so easy, because we don't need to do anything. All you have to do is sit with someone and listen. And that is the most generous and profound act of love. And I think that's where I stand, and I'll bridge it into the Hope Network. Like, the Hope Network technologically is a social platform for community and for human connection. It's a place for all of these amazing types of things, like what Zena's talking about with her productions, to come and to aggregate onto our calendar for groups. We have e-learning modules. You could build your own course on the platform. There's a lot of functionality. Plus, there's a team that's developing and a mastermind and people that are working together, because I just believe it's like that African proverb. We can go farther together and we can go faster if we go alone. Well, I want to go far. I'll just be honest. I want to go far. I'm patient. I know that it's going to be quite a journey in the next 10 to 15 years as all of this is changing and the information age is fully setting in. I've looked around with a lot of entrepreneurs at a lot of projects over the last year. I got to tell you, there's a revolution in the entrepreneur sector of the economy. There is some amazing projects. There are amazing technologies. The web is going to be completely transformed, and there's a new democracy that's coming, and I mean it. You don't need to go to the ballot box to create it. You don't need to force a view on someone to create it. It's just happening, and it's happening because we're investing our energy in the right way. And it's about first thing that I think is most important, and the reason why we named this platform Hope was because it was all about shifting the narrative. Right now, marketing, and which marketing is in function, it's just influence. So the influence levers in the world today are completely dominated by fear. If you want to get something done, you have to market to the fear. Well, we're seeing this shift, and we're at the grassroots level of this shift of changing the marketing conversation of hope to hope, such that people are starting to expect a brighter future than right now. People are expecting a worse future. Things are going to get worse. There's going to be an economic collapse. There's going to be a civil war. The expectation right now is things are getting worse. Well, I'm saying the expectation is really that things are getting better. Not just because I have blind faith, but because I've seen the solutions in the grassroots part of the economy, and I've seen what people are working on. And I also know that it is necessary, if we are creating this world together, it is necessary that each person takes responsibility for their energy and what they're investing into the quantum field and creating it together. So it doesn't matter how scared I am of those things. And yeah, sometimes I might get so scared that I need someone to just compassionately hear me out. And trust me, I'm human still. I'm saying all this stuff, but I'm not without the ability to have, last week was hard. And I'm sure it was hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me going on Facebook that Saturday after the Capitol riot and seeing people fighting on Facebook, people I love and care about. And I had my own point of view about how it was, and I wanted to jump in because I felt scared. If I don't go fight for this thing I believe in, it's all going to hell in a handbasket. And I didn't do that. I interrupted that, and I chose a new way. And I shared about choosing that new way. And people resonated with that. And people who were scared and frustrated acknowledged they were scared and frustrated because I acknowledged it with myself first.
What's the new way you chose?
The new way thank you. The new way I chose was compassion, first for myself, because I had to get myself first. And then when I got myself, I had to share it vulnerably without knowing if people were going to accept me. I was scared when I got on my Facebook Live. I thought people were going to reject that. And I thought I was going to be attacked. But I said, I have to do this. So I did it anyway. So it took a little bit of courage. And people loved it.
A lot of courage. I'm so happy you did it.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm glad I did it too. And it started to shift for me the way I wanted to constantly, because this isn't the last conflict we're going to have in the world. And I want to start training it into my nervous system that when the fear rises in society, the automatic response I'm going to have is love. I just want to train my nervous system to respond. Hate comes at me, love's responding out of me. And I don't care if it comes against my body. I got to care about people in my life too. So, I don't want to I have it that me and my family are protected in the stand, but listen, it's just radical love. It is radical love. And it's not appeasement. It's not what the governments in Europe did to Hitler, letting him just walk all over Poland. It's not that. And there's a lot of memes out there. It's not that. It's actually highly engaged. It is deliberate. And it is intentional. And I very much believe that if people in Germany in the 1930s were acting in the way of being that I'm talking about, none of that would have happened. But people were scared, and they started hiding, and they started saying, well, I can't be responsible for that. No, there's a lot to be responsible for. And love and hope needs to be louder than fear and anger. And anger is a healthy emotion, but it's only healthy when you're not using it to make other people wrong, but when you're acknowledging, I'm angry, and this is why I'm angry. I'm not making you wrong for it, but I need to be heard for it. And when you take responsibility for it, that's when it gets expressed in a completely remarkable, miraculous way.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good, Nathan. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I definitely had my version of really dealing with my automatic default reaction when things started getting a little chaotic. And for me, that moment was in March of 2020. I have an online marketing agency where I help local businesses, right? Most of my clients are dentists. And when the lockdowns hit, their clinics had to close. And also my marketing services to them, right? So all of a sudden, I had lost 90% of my revenue. I was seeing my clients letting go of their staff, right? These are moms that rely on their jobs to pay for their livelihood and put food on the table for their children. And I got angry. I was ready to like go pitchfork somewhere like with a torch, you know? And I started with social media, you know, I was like one of those keyboard warriors. And yeah, I was saying like what a bad idea lockdowns are and how like we need to just defy the whole thing. And I wasn't giving space to people for other people who really felt threatened by the virus and really felt that staying at home and locking down the country is actually the best thing we can do, is to contain it, right? That's the view a lot of people held, and I was having no regard for any of it, and I became totally polarized. And thankfully, eventually, I have great influences in my life. After having several conversations with people, I saw it took me back to like, wait a second, like where am I responsible for what's going on in the world right now? And how can I contribute to creating that reality that I prefer, where we all get along and there's love and we take care of each other? And I wasn't doing that. I was just wanting to be right and complaining, right? So yeah, that definitely takes something. So why should people join the Hope Network, and where can they do it?
Well, you can go to joinhopenow.com to join our platform. We're in a beta.
So we're joinhopenow.com.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up right now. But we're in a beta right now. We're going to have a phone app. It's a web app right now. We're going to have a phone app probably next month. We're working on it. I'm going to put it up.
Nice.
Let's see here. So it's Join Hope Now.
Why would people want to join Hope Now?
Because we are a network and group of people that are working in teams and collaboration. So if you are someone who has a project, or you are a part of investing into a future where hope reigns over fear, you can be a part of a like-minded community that's doing that. And we're really a network of communities, plural. We're an alliance, if you will. I don't want to be a community leader. I want to be a liaison between communities so we can work together to create some social good. But the other reason is people can come for connection, like what Zaina's creating. Like people can come and find, someone like Zaina who's helping you to move through the spaces. And there's all sorts of ways to move. I mean, I went to yoga today, and it was amazing. I love yoga, and it transformed what was I didn't sleep well last night, and it transformed what could have been a rough way to start the day. So there's so many ways to connect. And I want all those ways to be available to people, whether it's health coaching, whether it's business coaching, whether it's yoga or kirtan. Like there are so many ways for people to get connected. And I just want to share that through this community. So if you're there to offer that, come as a provider, or if you're there to find that, come as someone who's looking for it, looking for hope. And I promise you, this is a journey. This is going to be the journey of my lifetime. And anyone who wants to join us, I'll promise that to you too. This is going to be fun. It's going to be purposeful. It's going to be meaningful. And I believe we'll create some economic opportunities too. So if you're looking for work, I believe there's ways to create financial win-wins. So this is a new paradigm. This is a new economy. So come be a part of this. It's a huge movement. We have a ridiculous business plan. I can't even get into the details in these last 2 minutes, but that's what I want to say about that. And I'll leave you to close out in the last 2 minutes. So thank you for having me.
Just one thing before you close out, Cedar. Nathan, thank you for who you are. Thank you for creating this platform for the new earth. Like we're going to use this platform to create new earth, and just so nice to know you. It's just so great. Thank you. I mean, I feel like you're like Einstein, and I know you like from before. Like, it's so brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
I got that.
I have so much hope for the future of the world and the future of humanity because of people like you all. So thank you for being in the Love is Our Nature podcast. Definitely welcome back in the future. And I love you guys. So thank you all for joining, those that joined live. And this podcast will be on every podcast network out there like iTunes and Spotify. Go to loveIsOurNature.com, subscribe, and let's be the hand on the forehead of the patient. The patient is the world. Go forth and love. Bye, everybody. Till next time.
Love.
Thank you so much.
That is all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for being a valued listener. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the podcast in whatever your favorite platform is. You can also watch the video version of the episode on the Love is Our Nature YouTube channel. Check out loveIsOurNature.com as well. That's where you can see our latest news and most recent content. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a review, share it with your friends, or email me. I love hearing what you took away for yourself out of listening. My email is Caesar@loveIsOurNature.com. That's CESAR, or Cesar, like my mother says it, at loveIsOurNature.com altogether. Till next time, I'll be here rooting for you. And remember, whatever the question, love is the answer.